Hi everyone, Pam Gregory. I just wanted to do a really short update for you today, partly because my next update for the first half of July will be perhaps a day or so late due to personal circumstances. And there's a lot happening in the world, which is why I wanted to do this short video for you. I'm recording this on the 14th of June. And really from now on, for the next week, we're going to have the Sun, Mercury and Venus squaring in the very last couple of degrees of Gemini, squaring Neptune in Pisces. So it's very interesting to observe that Gemini, one of the associations of Gemini is birds. Neptune, particularly when it's in Pisces, is linked to viruses, things that have no boundary, things that spread very quickly. So there's a very clear association there between some kind of bird virus with those astrological aspects. But in another sense, Gemini is also to do with the facts, the information, and Neptune, especially in Pisces, is to do with things not being clear, with deceptions, that kind of thing. So it's very important when things like this come up, particularly with the current situation that we're hearing about, that you really check in with your intuition, your discernment. Is this true? Is it not? So I just wanted to share that with you. From this point on in the year, we are going to be experiencing quite a significant shift in energy, quite a dramatic shift in energy for the rest of the year and into some of 2025. And 3D life, the life we've always known and the life we've lived, is going to become much more colorful and dramatic and intense. Of course, we don't have to live at that level, as I so often say. We can take a breath, we can take a step back, we can stay on our eagle's perch, and we can observe these things unfolding in the world without being fully emotionally engaged with them. We're just observing. We're in divine neutrality. And when you do that, you stay on a higher frequency, a different dimension. So to really try and cultivate, it's something that's very much encouraged in yoga, that you stay in the observer position, you stay on your eagle's perch. I'd really recommend you do that, because there's going to be so much coming at us very quickly for the rest of this year. For instance, on June 10th, I reported on social media a decision that had been taken the previous day, Sunday, June the 9th, that Saudi Arabia had made the decision to end the 50-year agreement, which essentially had meant that the US dollar was known as the petrodollar. And by this agreement, Saudi Arabia said that their oil exports could only be sold in US dollars. Well, as of Sunday, the 9th of June, they have not renewed that agreement, and they've really turned to the east and are very much more involved in the BRICS countries, capital B-R-I-C-K, a combination of many, many countries, Russia, China, India, etc. You can easily look that up online. So that is a very significant shift. There's virtually nothing about it on mainstream news, of course, at the moment, but there is quite a lot on alternative media, and that will have very significant implications for the US economy, and will also ripple out to the global economy and the power dynamics around the world. So that is very significant indeed. Now, I've been talking about the US Pluto return for about 2 years now, and I'll put that video below. I did it, I think, a couple of years ago, but if we look at the US chart set for 4th of July, 1776, 10 past 5 in the afternoon, Philadelphia, the chart that I believe most astrologers use, at the Declaration of Independence, which was the birth, if you like, the constitutional birth of the current US, the planet Pluto is in the second house of that chart, 27 of Capricorn, second house. Capricorn is to do with big money, big banking in today's terms, stock markets. It's to do with politics, the constitution, government, that kind of thing. And so because Pluto has a 248-year cycle, this is the very first time, and it was really exact in 2022, 2023, but still very much operational now, that Pluto, for the first time, was coming back to that 1776, that so-called natal place for the US. And the second house of any country's chart is to do with the economy, the wealth, the value of the currency. And so it was a very, simple prediction, really, that there was going to be something that was very important and transformational for the US economy, the currency, that would have a domino effect onto the politics, the constitution, etc. So that's a very, very big transit for the US. It's still operational. Pluto is going to retrograde back to into Capricorn, not quite to 27 degrees, but nevertheless technically conjunct that 1776 Pluto from the 2nd of September to the 19th of November. So we're still very much experiencing the US Pluto return. And that will have all kinds of ramifications, as I say, within the US. And if we think back to when Pluto originally entered Capricorn back in 2008, whenever Pluto enters a sign, within a few months, it generally brings some kind of crisis around the symbolism of that sign. So we're all very aware, September 2008, we had the financial crisis. Capricorn, stock market, banking, big money. So we have this again now. And what is interesting, and I said, I was talking about this in my last update for the full moon in Capricorn, coming up on the 21st and 22nd of June. I'll put that video below this one. Now, firstly, just to reiterate that is at 1 degree of Capricorn, that full moon, and we're under the influence of that already. But whenever you have any planetary aspect at anywhere between 28 of the mutables, those are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, up to 2 degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, that is known as the world axis. So this full moon coming up on the 21st, 22nd of June is on the world axis. And what that means is something is going to be very big on the public stage, very important on the public stage. And we're already into that energy now, linked to big business, big banking, governments, that kind of thing, because it's Capricorn. So in addition, that full moon at 1 degree of Capricorn is opposing Venus in that 4th of July 1776 chart for the US. Now, Venus in any country's chart, as I said in the last update, represents the wealth or the currency of a chart. And that is what the decision on the 9th of June has just significantly changed, let's say, significantly impacted. It's a very big decision. And Venus in the US chart, as well as having that generalized meaning of the currency and the wealth of the country, also rules in that chart the 6th house of people's health and employment in a country. It also in that US chart rules the 10th house of government and leadership and the 11th house of politics. So this is likely to be very important indeed. I think it will become even more important because as we move into late second half of July, because on the 21st of July, and I'll talk about this a couple of updates down the road, but I wanted to let you know about this now because I think it's going to be very big. There is a second full moon in Capricorn on the 21st of July, this time at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Now that full moon is going to be conjunct the 1776 Pluto in the US charts. It's going to activate again everything that Pluto is about. It's going to be a complete transformation for America. And this is just the beginning of it. It's going to, unfold over years to come and have global ripples, global domino effect. But that full moon, I believe, will activate more strongly that US 1776 Pluto and all that it means. In addition to that 29 degrees of Capricorn has been highly activated by currently transiting Pluto. As many of you know, transiting Pluto up in its orbit right now has been crisscrossing over that 29 degrees of Capricorn, the anoretic degree, the critical degree or the crisis degree of a sign, the very last degree, you know, backtracking back and forwards. It will cross that degree again. It will enter 29 degrees of Capricorn 2nd of September and hover about on that degree and exit for the final time in this cycle, Pluto's 248-year cycle, on the 19th of November, and fully move into Aquarius, when we'll have very different energy again, much more to do with freedom and the people and egalitarianism, etc. But that all of that is very activated because of the full moon at 29 of Capricorn on the 21st of July, because it's already being set up by the full moon on the 21st, 22nd of June, by the full moon at 1 degree of Capricorn, because it's the US Pluto return for the very first time since the initiation of the US in its current form, because that 29 degree is not only the critical degree, the crisis degree, the anoretic degree of Capricorn, big business, big banking, money, currency, government, all of those things, verticality, wealth, elitism, but also it's being so activated by transiting Pluto. I hope all of that is making sense to you non-astrologers out there. However, just before that, just about a week before that, I also want to highlight, and again, I'm going to cover that in the next 2 updates, but I wanted to let you know now, particularly because the next update I do, maybe a day or 2 late, is from the 14th to the 16th of July in particular. We have a very hot, important aspect. This is a conjunction between Mars and Uranus. Mars and Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus. It's also conjunct the fixed star Algol. Now, to discuss Algol, first of all, I've often mentioned Algol. It's a fixed star, so it only moves 1 degree in 72 years. It's linked to people in this myth, people losing their heads. And that can mean that people are kind of going crazy, they're going mad, or it can be that leaders lose their power. Now, already, as I'm recording this today, Uranus is already at 25 degrees. So, you know, within 1 degree of Algol, and we've recently, in the last few days, seen some pretty devastating or dramatic results from the EU elections. The Belgian Prime Minister has had to resign. Macron had a devastating, I think, 15% of the vote, and he's announced he's going to ignore that and call a sort of very quick election. But Marine Le Pen in France had achieved more than double of Macron's vote. So, you know, this is going to be very interesting to watch, and watch for leaders losing their heads. It's going to be more exact, that aspect, as I say, in the second half of July. But it's already operational now. It becomes stronger because on the 14th to the 16th of July, Mars joins that conjunction. Mars activates, energizes that conjunction. So this Mars-Uranus conjunction is volatile, it's shocking, surprising, it's combustible, it's explosive, it's eruptive. Now, this can suggest very strong awakening happening with people, a further shattering of belief systems. It can be, you know, a very positive surprise, but it's the classic aspect for earthquakes, literal earthquakes, political earthquakes, financial earthquakes, any kind of, you know, big eruptive, shocking event and energy. That's also exactly the time when we have the US Republican Convention over that weekend. I think it's in Wisconsin, but nevertheless, it's over those dates, 14th to the 16th of July. So that's going to be very interesting. There could be some kind of fireworks happening there. It's very much a fireworks, you know, very explosive, eruptive. It's like lighting, you know, lighting something, a firework that goes off. But it may be very positive. But that's the energy of it. So, but I just want to sort of step back for a moment into June, because I just want to say couple of things about June. As I say, I'm filming this on the 14th. On the 11th, we had a very strong aspect between Mars and Pluto, a square between Mars and Pluto. Now, we last had a square between Mars and Pluto on the 7th of October last year. And we may remember what happened on the 7th of October last year. This is a kind of might makes right. It's a very strong assertion of power in the world. Now, that square was then in the late cardinal signs, but that was the Hamas attack on Israel. This time around, I never know the event as an astrologer. I never know how it's going to manifest. But again, on the 11th of June, it was again Mars square Pluto, this time in the very early degrees of the fixed sign. So we expected some kind of assertive show of force in the world. And as many of you know, after many years of not doing this, Russian warships appeared, I think about 60 miles off the coast of Florida, and they were going through some military exercises. And I understand those warships have now moved down to closer to Cuba. So, that was very interesting to fulfill the symbolism that astrologers were seeing. So this is the kind of thing that we are going to see more drama, more color, more heightened intensity. Just know the analogy I've used very often in my videos is you're at a theatre, the actors are becoming aware that the audience are just not buying the storyline of the play anymore. It's not hanging together anymore. They're just not buying it. So the actors are talking louder and louder in order to keep on engaging the audience, although they can see the audience are starting to leave the theatre and it's not hanging together, it's not working. So things are going to become at that 3D level much louder, but more hollow. And just know that all of this is part of the astrology. Because at times, particularly when Pluto retrogrades back into the end of Capricorn, 2nd of September to 19th of November, particularly then, you may have this sense of, oh my goodness, everything's going backwards. Things have now gone wrong. It wasn't going the way I thought and the way I hoped. So do not start to get into that frame of mind. Do not start to think that, because that is clearly being highlighted by the astrology. I mean, astrology is so brilliant because it's so reassuring that there is some energy that is going to make some of us feel that way. Oh my goodness, it's all unraveling and going backwards. Do not feel that way, because we are absolutely on track. So, and could it possibly be that the actors are speaking more loudly because they're aware that people are leaving the theatre, or there's a need to distract you because we're all evolving so incredibly quickly? Could that be a possibility? So do not go into fear. I really, really want to say that loudly. Whatever happens, do not go into fear, because if you go into fear, you are emotionally engaging with what you absolutely don't want to see more of, and actually feeding it, because you're either feeding New Earth or you're feeding the old world. You can't be in the middle with this. Energetically, you're going to be doing one thing or another. And if you're in fear, it won't be possible for you to easily see the green shoots emerging for New Earth, because you're just in a different frequency. You're in a different dimension. You won't be able to easily see that to give you the kind of hope and confidence to keep going in love and joy and gratitude. So please stay out of fear. Link with like-minded people. Come together in those simple 15-minute meditations on a Sunday that are, I talk about very often, 7 o'clock UK time, no Zoom links, no recordings. You just energetically join with hands and hearts and feel love, feel joy, feel gratitude, feel compassion, feel peace. Because when we do that, many people are saying they can see, they can feel or see the light that we are generating and getting stronger and stronger. And the reason for that is love is a very high vibration, and love produces a brighter light, a higher frequency light. We're little energy generators for light. I mean, we have a whole intracellular communication network based on biophotons. That's how the information is transferred between cells in our body, through the biophotons. When we're in love and joy and gratitude, we shine like lighthouses. And you can see this with some people who are very much in that frequency. They enter a room and they're like lighthouses. They're like beacons. And that, in joining together with others across the world, and it's thrilling to see this. We're creating this stronger and stronger web of light, literally, this high frequency light. And everything is created from energy and from electromagnetism. And therefore, that enables us to create these higher timelines of love, these stepping stones of love to new earth, from that brighter light, that higher frequency light. And I can sometimes see people's auras, and I know that if people are in fear or they're depressed, there's a kind of brown haze around them. There's very little light, and their auras are very contracted. Where if someone conversely is in joy, as I've talked about, there's a much bigger aura and a much brighter aura. They really are like lighthouses. And of course, HeartMath has done an enormous amount of work on this, and how the heart toroidal field is more coherent and more expansive, and expands enormously beyond the body. Whereas if you're in fear, everything is much more contracted. So understand this is part of learning our mastery. Understand that, like the caterpillar cells and the butterfly cells, that there's going to be challenge at the 3D level, in order that we are honed like diamonds, in order that we learn our mastery to stay in love. So please, please, please do kind of understand that the louder it gets on the outside, the more we need to turn inwards. Turn inwards into simplicity, into the breath, into the heart, bare feet on the grass, hug a tree, hug a child, hug a dog, everything I've talked about. Keep it simple. Turn into your power center, turn into your anchor. Stillness, breath. That's where you operate from. So, and that's how we will ultimately come together as one humanity. Because this whole universe is one consciousness. But we've lived in such a state of separation and division, we've just forgotten how to do that. But what brings us back together is actually paradoxically dramatic events in the world to increase our sense of compassion. Neptune's going to be on that world axis very, very soon. It is already, really, virtually already. Compassion will increase enormously, and that will allow us to come together in a much greater sense of unity consciousness. Something else I didn't mention in that wonderful conversation I had with Heather Ensworth about Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces I had yesterday is that if we go back to this US chart, Neptune is coming up to the IC, the base of that US chart. The base is at 1 degree of Aries. So Neptune is hovering around there, going to come on to 1 degree of Aries next year, fully in 2026. That can signify flooding in some instances. Look at what's happening with Florida right now, because that Neptune is already operational on the IC. But it means also that transiting Neptune is also opposing the MC in that US chart. The MC is the government, the leadership, and there's a sense of dissolution. Of very significant change happening with the Pluto return and everything else I've talked about. And just absolutely know, I've talked about this in so many ways, but just know that our rapid ascension right now is not just down to humanity coming together in all the ways I've talked about. It isn't just that. It's the cosmology, it's the physics of light, it's the yuga cycles, it's the ancient prophecies, it's the astrology as well as our human efforts in what we're doing to unite and spread light around the world. So there is, if you're getting to that higher timeline, which is more crystalline, which is more malleable, which is stepping into the light body, this sense of oneness and connection with all living beings, it is so different such an incredibly different reality. If you can get even the faintest sense of that to what's unfolding on the nightly news, it's utterly different. So the more you can just get a taste of that, even for a moment or two, the more it will give you the confidence to say, yeah, I can really feel this is starting to happen. And it's beautiful. Healing, telepathy, psychic gifts we've never known before. It's all coming down the track quickly. And there are going to be big changes on the earth that are ultimately going to lead us into an indescribably wonderful world. And I really do think that, I'm not just living in La La Land. I really do feel that many very gifted psychic and spiritual people are talking about this more and more. So just know, we're the pioneers, we're the bridge builders, we're the initiators of something that, gosh, I go so goosebumpy at this point, that we are going to feel so proud to have done as we look back from the future to now. So I hope that short update helped you to give a bit of perspective to what's happening right now. And I will be back very soon, but it may be a day or two late with the next update. July is a big month. July is a very big month. The shift in energy happened actually in April. As many of you know, total solar eclipse and the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, that's when the light switch happened to initiate all these changes and to really reveal what we have lived through in graphic detail, to enable us to say we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to move to a much more loving world. God bless. Hope that helps. Bye for now.